As part of his campaign ahead of the 2024 general elections, President Mahama committed to what he described as a 120-day social contract with the people of Ghana, a bold pledge to implement a set of key policy actions within the first 4 months of assuming office. Now, among the headline promises were the abolition of several controversial taxes, including the e-levy, COVID-19 health levy, the betting tax, and the recently introduced emission levy. Now, with 100 days gone, Joy News Research Desk has conducted an assessment of the progress made so far. Out of the 25 policy commitments outlined in the social contract, 8 have been fully implemented, 9 are currently in progress, 8 are yet to be initiated. And we've got this graphics to illustrate the point. So we are in 101 days for the new administration and progress on Mahama's 120-day contract. So the headlines are brought to you, 8 and 9 in progress, 8 not started at all. He promised a national dialogue on education and economy is done. No fee for first year and free tertiary education for people with disability, not fully rolled out. E-levy gone, betting gone, emission taxes scrapped. COVID-19 still on the books. Allocation for Women's Development Bank. There's a budgetary allocation, work has yet to start on it. Actualization. So these are some of the outstanding issues. COVID-19 levy yet to be fully scrapped. Ban political appointees from purchasing state access. Well, the wording is out there. Code of conduct for government officials yet to see the light of day. Restructuring loss-making SOEs for profitability. We've heard a lamentation, but we are yet to see actual work done to see how this restructuring will take place. Streamline government's scholarship administration. The commitment has been made. The Get Fund board is in place. They hope to go to Parliament. That has not yet started. So, you know, 68 of the promises have been fulfilled. 68% of promises to be fulfilled. And with what? 19 actually, not 20 days, 19 days left. Yesterday was the 100 days, so 19 days more to go to fully fulfill this social contract that he says we want to have with Ghanaians. Now, he also promised to constitute the leanest and most efficient government. According to him, he's reduced the number of ministers, and that for him constitutes a lean government. And COVID-19 yet to go. Forensic audit of financial mismanagement. There's been ORA, the report has been submitted. The Attorney General is studying it. There's been no development on the way forward as far as that matter is concerned. 24-hour economic policy. We understand that Mr. Gusitano is working on it, but we don't know in what form and shape that will take. Ban illegal and new mining activities in forest reserve. They have put together an ally in Parliament seeking to just abolish the part that says that there should be no there shouldn't be mining in forest reserve, but the bill itself is still pending. Launch the Blaster experience. We yet to see that reopen investigation into unresolved criminal cases. Some directives have gone to the CID to do so. Probe VR, Akosombo, and Pond Dam spillage. There's been some work on it. Compensate flood victims in Oti, Bono East, and Savannah. Commitments have been made, but the fact that those affected are yet to receive that particular compensation. Right, let me bring in Richard Ahiagbah of the MPP, is a communication director. Also, Dr. Jonathan Asante Ochre, he's a senior lecturer and a political analyst at the University of Cape Coast. Mr. Richard Ahiagbah, clearly the president is on track to, you know, realizing the set of goals he said he would do in the next 120 days, with 19 more days to go.
Well, thank you, and good afternoon to you and your viewers. I will put it differently. I mean, he's not on track at all. From what he said he will do these in 120 days.
Right.
What he has done, which is minimal compared to what is outstanding, he cannot be on track at this rate. So he's off track, to put it mildly. Is gravely off track, and I think that it goes to prove the point that the NDC talk, or they bit more than they can chew. And right now, they're just going to be playing with us with words and excuses until the 4 years is up. But clearly, what they have committed themselves to in 120 days with 19 or so days outstanding, he cannot deliver on this promise. So it's a failed promise, as I can put it, is failed Ghanaians in the quest to achieve these things in 120 days. If he achieved them by 120, I'll be surprised. But I can see clearly from here, he is not able to achieve them.
No, but Richard, between me and you, he says he will nominate within 14 days the complete list of cabinet ministers for parliamentary approval. That has been done. He will constitute...
How difficult is that? How difficult is that?
But he committed to it and it's been done. So we must give him credit for that. He said he will constitute leanest and most efficient government, but that is subject to interpretation under the Fourth Republic in my first 90 days in office. According to what he's done, constitutes or fulfills that particular promise. Hold a national dialogue on education and then on the economy. He's done that. Within 90 days in office, scrap the following draconian taxes to alleviate hardship and then ease the high cost of doing business. E-levy is gone. COVID-19 is pending. Levy on betting is gone. Emission is gone. Review taxes on levies on vehicle. That has yet to be done. Commence drafting needed legal amendment and prepare implementation of 24-hour economy. That is also in the offense.
If you just hold there, what you have seen that he has done are not consequential, right? The things that are consequential in relation to the promises they made. One of the key promises on the campaign was that they're coming to restore and improve cost of living for Ghanaians, right? So if you look at this thing that we're looking at here, the number 5 that you're reading, which talks about scrapping some taxes, that number 5 is not a contentious matter because today, if the MPP had won the election and Bawumia is the president, by now, as we speak, e-levy, COVID-19 levy, which is still on the books, betting tax, emission tax, which was not implemented, will not be there. So that's a non-starter because both sides were going to do that anyway. But the things that he said he would do, the biggest one is 24-hour economy.
Right.
They won the election. I can argue to you, they won the election on balance based on the promise that they were going to do some 24-hour economy. They were chanting all around 1-3-3-3. Given that 1 job, 3 people, 3 shifts they were going to do. Where is that? We don't have that. We don't have that. It's nowhere, right? If they're going to put pen to paper and come and show us policy, this year they can't deliver because it's nothing, there's no provision for it on the budget, okay, or in the budget to actually show that they're going to implement it. So he cannot be on track. Now, he went for the low-hanging fruit that in 14 days, I'll choose my ministers. Really, how difficult is that? Right? If that is a problem, then we have a big problem. To be able to choose your ministers in 14 days, that's no news, right? To constitute an education consultation or dialogue to discuss things, bring people together. Really, what is there to be so complicated and then say that's an achievement? Nothing. But the real things that he must show leadership, those are outstanding. What happened to the banning, galamsey in forest reserves? He has completely pivoted away from the conversation, doing the very minimalist approach of amending the LI. What he promised, he has not delivered. He said he will repeal, he will ban, which means total repeal. He has done that. He also is talking about, within 90 days to review taxes and levies on vehicles and equipment. That has not been done. It hasn't been done. It talks about what do you call establish an accelerated export development council, right?
Right.
What is the work on that in 120 days? Now, this is a major consequential thing that you're going to do because this has direct impact on the economy.
Okay.
What about that? So the low-hanging fruit that anybody can do is gone grab it. And just yesterday, they hurriedly commissioned the nation coders.
Right. For me, it's a major step.
Well, a major step, where in terms of fulfilling the contract, he has not. Okay? He has not. What would have been substantial for Ghanaians is to see all of these things done because the commitment was to get all of them done. And at this point, he's not done 50% of them.
Let me bring in, let me just allow you to hold it there for me. Can you hold it there for me? Because one key question I want to ask is why it's so difficult for leaders, political leaders, to craft a code of conduct to regulate, the conduct of political appointees. Because the MPP under President Akufo-Addo, the Attorney General told us that it was before cabinet, it never left cabinet, and so it's difficult to understand why it's difficult to come up with a code of conduct to regulate how your members or your appointees should behave. But let me bring in Dr. Richard Asante-Ochre. Doctor, some say this 32% does not reflect the actual performance because it is more quantitative than qualitative view of his performance for the 101 days so far that we've witnessed the NDC administration. Your take on this?
Mr. Mopi, thank you very much. Let me say good afternoon to your viewers. I subscribe to that. We need to look at the qualitative view instead of a quantitative view. There are some of the promises that Mr. Ahiagbah once said, well, how difficult is that? Yes, those things can easily be done, but the other things that come with economic consequences that will have impact on the budget of the nation, that will have impact on the revenue envelope of the country, you ought to proceed with care, not to put the fundamentals in place. Here is the case that you met an economy that was quite symbolic, to say the least. An economy in which people have lost their investment bonds, an economy in which our debt portfolio has risen from 120 to 721 billion. That did not come out by magic. It came out because people were reckless, people were unbridled, people engaged in unbridled corruption. And so if you look at a situation where you're talking about accountability, that comes within the fold of that 100 or 120-day contract arrangement. You are talking about e-levy. You need to look at the financial implication of e-levy. If today, just today I sent some money, some days ago I sent some money, which I usually do when you check my account, you see I do a lot of mobile money transactions.
Right.
And by the time you say, Jack, you will see multiple effects of these transactions coming through your portal or your account.
Right.
And if somebody is not seeing that, you think that person will not consider that as having some kind of, implication qualitatively or implication economical or financially in that person's life. Of course, it will. So if you look at the young guys engaged in bets and other things, if today they are winning and that they will win and there wouldn't be any that kind of deduction, they will quantify that and see that as something having some kind of significant impact in their lives. So if you look at, for example, cutting down the number of ministers,
right,
that in itself constitutes a huge expenditure on the purse of the government or the state. And so if you take out that and you look at the effect of that reduction, that comes as a revenue to the country. If you have prevented people, for example, from not traveling on first class, which used to be the case where we had executive jet chartered here and there, that comes as a less cost to the nation. It may not be part of the 120-day contract. If you have a situation where the president has reduced the allocation to the presidency, it comes as what? A revenue to the nation. So this and many other things, of course, I don't think that they will be able to do everything within a twinkling of an eye, because you are now confronted with the reality of what your predecessor left for you. And this is how you have to go about it. Look at Constitutional Review Committee, that is very huge. If at the end of the day, its implementation goes on successfully, the country will be beneficiary of that. You can talk of this educational forum. You can talk of
the economic forum.
Double track system. I mean, significantly, in terms of governance, in terms of the economy, I don't think that for now we cannot see any of the economic indicators that were left by the MPP government has seen a downturn or a negative posture with respect to the NDC government. So if you want to talk about competency, there are areas that the NDC current government has achieved some successes.
Right.
There are still many others that they will have to do. You mentioned Galamsey, but Galamsey is something that you cannot clear in a day. No. But you see the commitment on the part of the current government It makes me happy.
But you see, but especially on that, when people say that when in opposition, if you can just allow me for just a second, on Galamsey, when the criticism is that when the party was in opposition, it was emphatic that it will, in fact, the party demanded President Akufo-Addo announce a state of emergency in Galamsey areas, water bodies and all that, and then made it clear that it was against that law, the mining law that grants access to forest areas for mining purposes, and that it was going to take the law. And in fact, that was what the MPP government wanted to do before the expiration of the 8th Parliament. Now, incoming is the NDC. What they've done is that they've moved away from the declaration of a state of emergency. They've moved away from a complete withdrawal of that law, but rather is interested in amending just a line that says that mining should not take place in forest reserves. And people say that you are really not living up to what you said when you were in opposition.
You see, here is the case: the previous government might have theoretically committed because they were forced. They, in the first place, brought that particular bill into law. Now, people realize that, look, what you did is simply immoral. Now, kill that. So they tried to initiate in the dying embers of their government. So for me, that commitment was not there. They had to be pushed. Nobody has pushed this government. They decided to, amend certain portions, which I don't know why they wouldn't want to repeal it entirely. But listen to the other side. They seem to suggest that there are certain relevant portions of the bill that could easily be implemented. But if they also take on board what civil society is saying about certain portions of the bill or the law that ought to go, then I am of the view that why don't you repeal it entirely, send a new bill, and bring those portions that you think are relevant in the protection of that. But we did not see that kind of commitment on the part of the previous government. The commitment I'm seeing with respect to the current government is that they are really fighting this menace. And we saw what happened. I didn't even know that there was a Galamsey community, whatever, in Can or something of that sort on your network.
Yes, everyone in crime.
Then the whole community, which had over 10,000. So that commitment is there, but that commitment was absent in the previous government. So we have every reason to credit them on the fact that, well, you subscribed to the declaration of a state of emergency. Why are you not going by that? Probably the condition has changed, and maybe they are fighting it, which was not the case with the previous government, because they said that if they fight it, they are going to lose the election. We don't have any elections to conduct in this country for now. And that is why I see the entirety of government. Look at the posturing of the Lands and Forestry Minister. Look at the posturing of the Environment Minister, Dr. Mutalo. Look at the posturing of the EPA boss. You could see that there is that concerted effort to ensure that our environment is protected. That is not something that I saw in the previous government. So the conditions and circumstances are different.
All right. Dr. Ahiagbah, you have a response to Dr. Ochre?
Or like an apologist for this NDC administration than an analyst. He doesn't sound like an analyst. He goes to say that they inherited a shambolic economy. What is his measure of that? That's not an analysis. That is a judgment he's pronouncing. I found that rather laughable for an analyst to be talking in those terms. He's an apologist for this NDC government hiding under the cloak of analyst. Look, what he says, you should approach this thing with caution. If you make a promise, all right, you make a promise to your fiance that in 120 days, I'll marry you. It's not the same as you having gone to buy her a car. If you buy her a car, it's as simple because you can afford to buy a car, but the difficult commitment of marrying her for life, you can't do it. So you have not achieved your promise. So you shouldn't come and tell us that they have done other things, and so therefore, the things they have put in this social contract, if they actually meant it, they would have prioritized this and delivered it. So it is not to do with what they have done elsewhere. We are talking about specific document which the NDC has promised they will deliver on, which they have not. So Dr. Asante should not come and throw dust in our eyes, being an apologist for the government, saying shambolic. What is shambolic about an economy that grew at 5.7%? What is shambolic about that? So please, these analysts or professionals who we should be looking up to, they cloak themselves in politics. We saw my own lecturer who was posturing as a social commentator, ended up becoming an NDC appointee. Many of them we have seen, some at tourism, some at where. So please, you should excuse us. Let's talk about the issue. The promise they made to Ghanaians, they have not delivered. They promised us they were going to do certain things in 120 days. Taking the accounts today, they haven't done them. The ones they said they would do in 90 days, they have not done. And so, for me, we should be clear in our minds and not have people apologizing or being apologists for the government when the fact of the matter is that they have not delivered. Why didn't they bring any of the NDC communicators to come here and explain to us how is it that we should accept this? Because they were on the people on the platforms, on the campaign platforms, telling us all over, telling Ghanaians on which basis Ghanaians voted. People voted on this basis. I just gave you an example of you making a promise to a woman, you marry her. And then you turn around, you take her to London for a holiday, you buy her a car, you buy her a jet. That's not what she wants. She wants marriage. Deliver that marriage, which is this contract. They have not delivered. So the NDC government, in the first 100 days, going on to the 120 days to fulfill or to end the contract that we have here in our hands, to end the days on it, they have failed. They have failed. Everything they've done so far.
19 days more to go. 19 days more to go. You are certain that they will not be able to achieve the rest of the promises they've made. Absolutely.
I mean, where they can't achieve the promise on the 24-hour economy, the Women Development Bank they have promised that they will do. They said they will provide seed money, an apology of seed money.
The seed money is in the budget.
Sorry, 51.3 is an apology, okay, of seed money. You can't establish any bank with this amount. And at this rate, it means that in the 120 days, they said they were going to fulfill this promise of establishing a bank. They have failed on that one. Okay, they have failed completely. So in a nutshell, what this document meant to the NDC was a deceptive document to get Ghanaians just to vote, to get the woman to say, yes, I would date you because you say you'll marry me in 120 days.
I asked early
now the
on,
woman has agreed. Now they are saying that we have gone to do this, we have gone to do this, so accept that. She didn't want you to do any other thing apart from what you have stated in this that you would do. When you have not done this, then you have failed.
Maybe I asked early on about why is so difficult for you politicians to fashion out a code of conduct to regulate or to guide the conduct of appointees in government. MPP started it, it ended up at cabinet, it didn't leave cabinet. NDC says we'll do it within the first 120 days. No movement on that particular matter. Why? Why is it so difficult to do?
I'll join with you to say let's canvass strongly. If the MPP couldn't do it, and the NDC has put it here in a secret document to the people that they will do it, let's canvass for that to be done. I think that as a people, we need to hold ourselves accountable, right? The political system that we run, our politicians, to be honest with you, can't be any different from us, the citizens. So all of us must hold us accountable. The discipline in the larger country reflects in the conduct of the people we choose to lead us. So we must be honest with ourselves and deal with the matters honestly. So let's canvass, let's hold this president's feet to the fire. I think that the president, to be very honest with you, I think is well-intentioned, right? But some of the things, they've bitten more than they can chew because they desperately wanted power. So they were saying anything and everything that came to mind. And now is the time, the chicken are coming home to roost and they cannot deliver. I expect the president, when the fullness of time is due, he should come and apologize that, yes, I wanted to do it, but I failed. Which way we can forgive him? Which way he can win the sympathy of some people. But if they want to play hardball on this matter and send Dr. Asante Ochiri to come here and apologize for them, I don't think that is going to fly. This is a secret document that they will achieve certain number of things in 120 days. They have failed. By their own standards, they have failed. And we should be clear in stating that. So on this matter of code of conduct, I agree with you. I think that we should have that. And for that, I am willing for any partnership to canvass the president to do it. It's a difficult thing. The president may want to do it, but the people around in the system may frustrate that effort. I any day would give him the benefit of the doubt.
Let me allow.
Just 1 second. Let me just add for you.
And then I can allow the to come in.
I'll give President Mahama the benefit of the doubt any day that he's well-intentioned. But this one, we must push him to make sure that he gets this code of conduct for his appointees, so that we can once and for all create a certain culture in public service that will be useful and beneficial to the larger country.
Dr. Oshwe, your reaction?
Well, that is a typical politician, for that matter, a national communication director of the MPP, calling me an apologist. I think that is very abusive and very insulting, and it is more or less like attacking my integrity. I want to ask, what economic indicator of the MPP that the NDC met that has had a negative implication for now? Is it the case that the NDC has increased inflationary rate? Is it the case that the debt that they inherited, which was 120 from independence, and in just 8 years we have 721? Is it the case that the exchange rate that they met at 4 and they took it to whatever? Is it the case that the inflationary rate that we saw rose up to 54 is something that the NDC has increased, or what? Now, if you look at some of these indicators, and you can say that the NDC for now has not seen a negative downturn of any of these indicators, then it is very difficult to convince somebody like me that the NDC or the president has failed in terms of the 120-day promise. And I think that when you're dealing with human beings, look, in as much as you may have, a beautiful idea to implement, as he rightly pointed out, that, the president may have a good idea to implement the code of ethics, but probably those people around him, may have a word or two differently from the president.
Right.
What, for me, is a middle line. But you cannot convince me otherwise that what I'm seeing in terms of the fight against Galamsey is not happening. Right? If you look at what they have come out with, what is it, Feed Ghana. Now, if that does not become like what is it called? The other one that MPP implemented.
The planting for food and jobs.
1 and 2. Planting for food and jobs,
right.
1 and 2. Spending over 600 million in that area, only to end up with a food inflation higher than anybody else's food inflation. So, if any of these things have not seen a negative downturn, there's no way you can convince me that the president and the vice president might have failed. Look at the mess in UCG that the current government inherited. That would definitely have an impact on whether we are going to experience doomsday or not. This level of recklessness is what took us to 721. Look at national service. How people did A, B, C, and D. Probably in no time that may come up. So you see, I expect the MPP to tone down on their arrogance and pride for now. In no time, when issues of accountability begin to rise, it is then that Ghanaians will know that the consequence of being reckless and corrupt throughout the period is what took us to 721 billion. There is no other means of understanding this, that someone's debt portfolio from independence to 2016-2017 will 120 and 8 years will be 721. There's no way you can convince me to understand other than recklessness, corruption, diabolic, and people using their country as though they are doing their own personal businesses. They don't really care a hoot. And you see, when some of us, we are all taxpayers. If you look at my tax portfolio, you will appreciate that I'm a good citizen of this country. Therefore, I have every reason to say A or B. Look, somebody like Professor Boppin someone I really respect. And I listened to his comment on the budget of the current government. And I have always been following his commentary on finance. And for the first time, we seem to have a budget that is very progressive, that did not impose taxes on the poor,
all right,
but rather those who are earning more. That, for me, is progressive.
If I can just come in briefly and to ask your final question on this. Now, the president has a 4-year mandate. I mean, is 120 days enough yardstick to use to measure whether you perform or not, knowing very well that the government's mandate is a 4-year one? Yeah,
not at all. But here is the case. The government, when in opposition, said that in 120 days, we'll be able to do A, B, C, and D. So obviously, you will have his critics holding him to that account. But other than that, if you look at the general terrain and the things that they've put in place, it tells you that this government is more likely to succeed. And I can tell Mr. Ahiagbah that if the current government continues in the tangent that we are seeing, there is no way they will be able to win 2028. And they may still stay in opposition. It may be very easy for whoever, unless maybe NDC experiences their own internal skirmishes, and that may be difficult for them to clear. If that is not there, and they have someone who will easily emerge as a leader without each cutting each other's throat, I don't see how, if they continue on that tangent, the MPP cannot in any way win 2028.
This obviously is why I don't know what this obviously is why, I mean, your comments and the emphatic emphasis you place on some of the issues you raise, and Richard Ahiagbah thinks that you speak more like an NDC person rather than an independent person. But you're only speaking your mind, right?
I am a taxpayer, just like him.
Let me allow him briefly. Mr. Ahiagbah, you've heard him. He says that everything convinces him that the NDC is on the right track. And you had 18 years and you virtually messed up the entire nation.
Let me tell you something. To be on record, I am not one to attack people for the sake of it or just do. I won't do that. So let me just state to Doc that I didn't attack his person. I only revealed his bias. That's all I did. His bias to the NDC, and I just exposed him for it. So that's not an attack. It is, if anybody is attacking on this program, it is him who is attacking, calling us arrogant. What we are saying is that there's a document which he is not speaking to. Dr. Autry is not speaking to the social contract. He's talking about everything else that is not in the contract. I'm saying that the contract they have given us to fulfill, right now, the minimalist 8 that they have completed, the 9 that is running, and the 8 that they have not tackled, constitute failure. And I just gave you an analogy that wraps it up to say that if you promise a woman, my fiancé, I'll marry you in 120 days, and 120 days come, you haven't married her, and you have gone to buy her a car, you have not fulfilled your promise. What you told her is not to buy a car, you want to marry her. So everything else Doc is saying is being apologist of the NDC hiding behind analysts. You should just come barefaced and say, I am NDC, and speak to it. This business of hiding behind academia and talking as for politicians must stop. It's hypocrisy. It's cowardice. So he's saying to me that we are being arrogant. No, at least we are honest and we have shown our face that this is what we believe in. This thing about you are a taxpayer, how many taxpayers speaks like him? Okay, so they should come frontal and let's have a conversation, because really it's about building our country. So this thing where people are hiding around and saying things under the guise that, oh, we are being neutral, when they're actually political than the politicians themselves, must stop. So I didn't attack him, I only exposed him to say that you are NDC person. If that is offensive to you, I can't help it, because that's what you are behaving as. So that I just have to point it out to you. But I'm saying that they looking at this document right before us, the NDC deceived Ghanaians. And you know that everything they have done in government as low-hanging fruits that they are doing, positioning and formatting people. They have not tackled the hard issues. They said they were going to solve cost of living problems. COVID-19 levy is still on our books. It's still on our books. In fact, in the budget, they estimated to get even some 3 billion. They estimated to get more for it. So I'm saying that's consequential. Okay, why haven't they removed it?
They say it will take time. They say it will take some time because the entire VAT law might have to go to some amendment, and that is something that they've started doing.
Yes, so you see, they put in the document. I didn't put it there for them. Didn't they know? Are they suggesting to us that when we were putting in the document, they didn't know how much work will be done? That is an even bigger problem. If they want to convince us that when they were putting it in, they didn't know that it was going to take more than 120 days to do it, then that is a bigger lie. So then why did you put it in if you know you can't do it in 120 days? So the point is that where we have arrived at now, it's a judgment or a verdict issuing time for the NDC. On this document, they have failed. Quite simply, that's it. You can't say it any other way. They have failed. The only argument Doc can make in speaking for the NDC would be to say that, they have 19 days to go. If that's what he wants to say, that let the 19 days expire in the fullness of time, they would have achieved all of them, 26 of them or so, here on the paper, as I can see. If that's the argument he wants to make, I'll grant him that. And then wait for the 19 days to come, then we can do full accounting. But in the meantime, I know they cannot achieve this. They have failed and deceived Ghanaians.
The longer issue is that the government has a 4-year mandate. So is it, even though he said I will do this,
let's not even entertain.
It will do this in 120 days. Is it fair to just say that they failed when there's still more time for the government? It's not everything that the MPP promised in 8 years that they delivered.
But the document that they have here, that in 120 days they will do this. And we're just saying that, and we're not saying for that reason they should leave office, they shouldn't finish the 4 years. That's not what we're saying. We're assessing in time. There's a defined time for us, that in 100 days we'll do so and so. Is that not the case?
Right.
So in 120 days, we are looking at it and saying that what you say you're going to do in 120 days, you have failed. Okay, so everything else you said you would do in 4 years, we'll now engage that one and see what you do at the end of the 4 years. We'll render account. But I'm saying that specifically to this social contract, which is something they have done ingeniously to win votes, they have failed, which means that they lied to Ghanaians. They wanted to do this. And we were saying this thing throughout the campaign. We were telling Ghanaians that, look, this whole business about NDC talking as if we have not seen them before, because they were in power 8 years ago, right? And we saw the devastation, how they managed the economy. We saw it, okay? And then suddenly they came and portraying themselves as though that they've not been seen before, that President Mahama is some kind of new angel just dropped from heaven. We told people this. So this whole thing about 24 hours, we said it was a scam from the beginning. We said it was a scam.
Okay.
Look, I gave an example recently. Let me just land on this point for you.
Okay.
The City of London, okay, is considering implementing a 24-hour economy. Very rigorous process.
Okay.
Requiring what the infrastructure will be even before you get to the proposal. Because the city lends itself to that kind of...
Richard, I'll have to cut you here because we've got this breaking news coming in. Thank you very much. Okay. Richard Ahiagbah is Director of Communication with the MPP. You also heard Dr. Ochre Asante, an independent analyst there. Now...